What's up, guys? How y'all doing? I have returned for the recap of the 2024 Detroit Supercross from Ford Field that took place on Saturday, February 3rd. And your winners tonight were Austin Forkner for the 250 East Coast and Jett Lawrence for the 450s. So, without further delay, let's get started. I'm going to put up my banner here. I'm going to try to keep this a little short today so you guys can enjoy your Sunday. And I'll tell you this, I'm starting with the 250s here. Austin Forkner wins the East Opener. You heard me say it already. That was a major feel-good story. I was so thrilled for Austin Forkner. And what a contrast for sure, because if you recall last year, he was running the West Coast Series, and his season came to an end almost immediately before the first turn of Anaheim 1. And as a result, blew out his knee, and it was just one injury after another. And it got to a point where Mitch Payton wasn't even willing to do interviews at all. And quite frankly, I can't say I blame him. I mean, a lot of his guys have been depleted to injury. And it's hard to believe that if Mitch Payton is going for win number 300 under the Pro Circuit 10, it's hard to believe it's taken him this long, because 10 years ago, or actually 13 years ago, really, Atlanta 2011, Gene Wilson delivered win number 200 for the Pro Circuit team. And Ryan Villapoto giving Pro Circuit their 100th win at Budds Creek in 2006. But anyway, the way that Forkner rode, that looked like the Austin Forkner of old before he got hurt in 2019 and eventually surrendered the title. And but for Forkner to, he got it. I wouldn't really say that he had it handed to him, but normally there were two guys down. But normally when there's guys down for the Pro Circuit team in the first turn, Forkner's usually one of those guys, I've noticed. And fortunately, he was able to evade the carnage. Not so much for Cameron McAdoo and Seth Hammaker. But I felt really terrible for Seth Hammaker, because his main event was pretty much done after that. And for a rider like Seth Hammaker, you can pretty much stick a fork in his title chances already. But of course anything can happen, but I just don't see Seth Hammaker getting a win in a 250 East class with this kind of depth. But right now, it looks like it could be between Max Anstie, Austin Forkner now, and Haiden Deegan. Haiden Deegan is my pick for the East title. And unfortunately, his title chances took a real blow in that first turn. And that he was giving someone the bird or the middle finger. I don't know who he was flipping off, but he was certainly not happy about something. And I looked on Instagram and saw his bar, the right side of his bars were bent down. That takes a lot to be able to break or bend your handlebars. And I can remember Michael Craig having one part of his handlebars broken off after a crash of Kevin Windham at Atlanta in 2000, getting to rewatch some of the races on YouTube about that. But for your triple clamps to break off, it takes a lot. And it's happened to Jeremy McGrath. It's happened to Isaiah Johnson before. I can remember Arnhem Holland, 2003. in prep for 2004 Supercross. It's hard, and that's really tough to see. And I honestly thought that Haiden Deegan didn't need an instruction manual, but now it looks like Haiden Deegan might be going through the learning curves now. I mean, look at what happened to Ernesto Fonseca after he dominated the 125 East in 1999. He winning 6 of the 7 races, and he was held to winning just the finale in Chicago 1 year later in 2000. And David Bailey even said this before, but sometimes when everything comes a little too easy, too quick, somewhere down the line, you're going to have to pay a price. And I hope that Haiden Deegan is not paying a price right now, because the kid's fast. He may or may not need an instruction manual because it is the first round and anything can happen. And of course, you do got to get a good amount of points. But honestly, I hope that everybody else gets their act together. And Tom Vialle, another disappointing moment. But then again, I don't really think Tom Vialle has proven himself in Supercross yet. Because Vialle, he's kind of hot and cold, but I have really yet to see a solid ride from him on a Supercross track. I mean, Atlanta was probably the closest. Atlanta and Daytona last year were probably the closest examples. And I didn't really see some good results in either race. But it looks to me like Tom Vialle's got a pretty steep learning curve, especially if this is his second season. But anyway, the 450 class, Jett Lawrence becomes your first 2-time winner of the season. And I thought that was a good wake-up call for Jett Lawrence after I was thinking that he was kind of getting the hard lessons being dished out to him in those 3 races. But Chase Sexton, I thought, was giving him a run for his money. But it seemed like that was a track where there wasn't much passing going on, maybe in the first rhythm section only, unless somebody blew it. That was the only way you saw a lot of passes. And but Eli Tomac, I don't know what was up with Eli Tomac. It seemed to me that third main event win at Anaheim 2 was a false sense of hope, in my opinion. Because even before that third main event win, Eli Tomac didn't really look himself on the track at A2. I mean, you could kind of see it on the track. I mean, he was even battling with Chase Sexton for a position just barely inside the top 10. I think they were battling for 9th in one of the races. But sorry, guys. A slight yawn. It's already after 2 where I am. But still, Eli Tomac, he was up in 3rd at one point, and he ended up finishing 10th. Quite honestly, I think that something was wrong with Eli Tomac, but I have a feeling it was both the bike and himself, quite frankly. Because, like I said, that third main event win may have been a false sense of hope. And for Eli Tomac to put in a performance like that, you'd have a hard time convincing me that Eli Tomac is back. Now, do I think he's going to be a title contender? Quite honestly, I don't think so. Unless he gets on the stick right now, I don't see Eli Tomac battling for this title. And it looks like that Achilles injury at Denver last year really zapped a lot of his speed. And it's going to take a long time for him to get it back. And, of course, we are in the sunset years of his career. Now, I'm not sure if Eli Tomac is Supercross only. He probably is. But I don't know if he's going to end his Supercross season finishing like 5th or 6th. He might probably commit to motocross and SuperMotocross. Or maybe even go worlds, or perhaps he could just kind of leave that behind and just go World Supercross, like how Ken Roxon is doing. So we'll see what happens. Next race is at next race we go back to the West Coast at Glendale, and we'll see what happens there. So anyway, guys, that's all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all for Glendale.